Welcome to Make It Plain, the Eric, Key, and Cameron Show. On today's show, we will discuss a viewer question. Who did Cain marry? This should be good. Stay tuned and study with us. This podcast is dedicated to addressing various topics from a biblical perspective, coupled with practical solutions for daily application. In essence, we want to take the Bible, which is relevant for all that we need in this life and the one to come, 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3, and we just want to make it plain. If you would like to reach out to us as our viewing audience and submit questions or comments regarding the show or the show content, we love to address those things and even use your questions or your comments to drive show content. We just kind of believe in not reinventing the wheel. Obviously, there are times that we come up with things that we want to talk about, but for the most part, whether or not we mention it, for the most part, a lot of it comes from just you guys, just viewer requests. But if you like to do that, or just to reach out to us and just talk to us, make it plain, hab22@gmail.com. Make it plain, hab22@gmail.com. That is in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2. And if you don't understand why our show has that passage as one of its driving scriptures, go read it. Go read that passage and you'll see why we use HAB22 to drive our show. So this episode is an interesting one. In some regards, it's kind of elementary because it's as a matter of fact, my 9-year-old asked me this question, even though this is a viewer request. A viewer wrote into the show and asked us, who did Cain marry? Because it seems that from the creation account that we find in Genesis chapters 1 through 4, that God would have had to create other people in order for Cain to have found a wife and to have escaped to the land of Nod, where obviously there's a population of people. And so a reviewer had given us this question, and my 9-year-old actually asked me this. We're studying the book of Genesis for Last to Leaders this year. And the theme is God meant it for good. And so we're studying the book of Genesis, coming to Joseph and the providence of God that we see there with what his brothers had done to him. But yet God had meant it for good, what they meant for evil. And so as we're studying the book of Genesis, we were going through the book, and then I'm having her, as we study the chapters, I'm having her just write down things that she feels like just jumped out to her of the chapter. And then we just kind of review those things. Well, we got to chapter 4, and she asked me, she's like, wait a minute, Daddy. Who did Cain? Cain had a wife. Like, Cain went to places like, who was Adam and Eve? Weren't they the only ones, or did God make other people? I mean, she basically asked the same question that the viewer asked: did God make other people? And so that was a good conversation that she and I had, and me trying to explain to her how Cain had a wife, though Adam and Eve were those who were created. So just a question for you guys. Have y'all ever been presented with this question?
Yes.
And short answer, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And short answer, yes.
What's the old saying? Inquiring minds want to know.
Inquiring minds want to know. But you know what also happens too is we dealt with this in a previous episode, and I'd have to think about it as we go through. We did
deal with the sons of
we did with those sons of God and the daughters of men.
Right. I believe that was season 3. I think
I can't remember.
Yeah.
The episodes kind of run together with me.
What season we on?
We're on season 4.
Man, we're on season 4.
This is season 4.
Don't feel like it.
It's crazy.
It's gone by fast.
Seemed like it passed by very fast.
Yeah, and then there was some overlap with season 2 or season 3, something like that.
We did a show. We did an episode. It'll come to me. One episode we had discussed atheism. We had discussed evolution.
Yes.
But then in another episode, we discussed creation. And when we were dealing with creation, we dealt with the different propositions of creation. One of them was the myth theory.
Right.
And the myth theory was that Genesis chapters 1 through 11 were mythical. They weren't real. They were just mythology. They were just fairy tales and stories. And that truly the Bible regarding it being literal was started with Abraham in Genesis chapter 12. But chapters 1 through 11, Adam and Eve, mythical, the flood, mythical, daughters
I think
of
that was the gap theory.
gap theory,
Yeah.
myth theory, though all of those theories. So what will also happen is this question will be used by atheists or by the agnostic or the blasphemer to try to disprove God. Because there is no way two people can populate the earth to the extent that you guys will have us believe that you can have that many people that die in a flood when God, your supposed God, supposedly cleanses the earth. And you look at some of y'all's estimates historically that there were millions of people that would have died in that flood. There's no way that can happen with two people in the amount of time that y'all say the 7 literal days of creation. Well, 6 literal days of creation, but again, God rested on the 7th. So, if you're going to have literal days, you're going to have all these people dying in a flood. They couldn't come from two people.
As one older sister always would respond, "You don't know my God."
He can do everything.
Right.
He can do above everything
Absolutely.
we think or imagine.
Yes,
And
sir.
so it will be used. As a matter of fact, who did Cain marry? That's a question we need to be able to talk about.
Mhm.
That's a question we need to be able to answer in order to provide evidence against evolution and against those false positions that seek to threaten the truth and snatch salvation away from our kids.
And I think another thing that needs to be said too, just because something may seem difficult on the surface,
Right.
doesn't mean that it's not true or real.
Yeah.
Like just because, if you already go into the Bible with this preconceived bias, preconceived notion, and you're not reading or studying to learn, you're trying to prove stuff already. Just because it doesn't make sense because you haven't put all the information together, doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah.
It just means you may need to do a little bit more researching and digging.
Right.
Oh.
Some people have become Christians trying to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trying to
Studied themselves into it.
I know a couple of brothers. One was going to study. He was going to study to disprove God. One of them was going to disprove God. He became Christian. One of them was going to study to disprove the church. He became Christian. And if you do that,
I think it was said, we talked about in one of the episodes about that the debate between Warren and Flew.
Yes.
I think I'm almost sure, 99% sure that before Flew died, they said he accepted a form of Christianity.
He did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think at the conclusion of the debate, he had to concede that there was a divine mind.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it was that fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I mean, we normally don't see that in modern debates where one side literally just right there at the end of the debate, just like, yeah, I concede.
Thomas Warren said in the debate, what did he kept saying something to the effect of it was something like it was so overwhelming because of the evidence. It's like, man, he kept saying, you can't prove that there's no God. Like, basically, I won the debate when you signed the proposition because you cannot logically prove that there's no God.
Yeah. You can't.
It's crazy.
You can't. That's great. So who did Cain marry? If you want to get your Bibles, we're going to be in Genesis chapter 4.
Feel like we're going to a wedding, fellas.
Yes, we're going to a wedding. I think, Cam, you may mention in one of our previous episodes that every time we take the Lord's Supper on Sunday, we attend a funeral.
Man.
Well, we're about to attend a wedding this one.
We're going to a wedding.
So, which coincidentally, when Christ rose, there was a wedding. His church,
Absolutely.
him and his church.
Yeah.
So we're Adam and Eve. So the very first thing we got to deal with, before we ever get into who did Cain marry, the very first thing we have to deal with is, were Adam and Eve the first and only? So, like, you got to nail this down, because we'll have so remember when we talked about this in that episode too. Right. It was called theistic evolution. So we had theistic evolution, we had the myth theory, the gap theory. So in theistic evolution, you'll have people that believe the biblical record, but they'll conflate or find other ways to
rationalize
to confirm it or to make it work, right?
I think we said in that episode that people who are theistic evolutionists find a way to
blend evolution and
evolution,
and
but
creation.
It was a certain, creation.
Mm-hmm.
So they accept the creation account, but then I guess when they start getting to like the dating, and the years, stuff like that, that's when the evolution starts to kick in. So
in the beginning, God said. Well, when he said that, the explosion happened. That's how they. That's an illustration of creationism and evolution at the same time. When he said it, that's when the Big Bang happened. But the Big Bang, but evolution says that something always existed.
And then we also say something to the fact about, I think another layer to that was deism.
Yes,
kind of like
that God just wound up the world.
He started the clock, and then
just walked off. Yeah, it was like, yep, when the clock quits ticking, that's when I'm coming back.
Yeah.
And so he's not active or engaged in our lives. He just wound it up and walked away. But before we can ever deal with Cain, we have to nail down the point that Adam and Eve were the first and they were the only. God didn't create other humans after he created Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve had to be the first and only, because if that's not the case, then there are several accounts in the New Testament that are now false. There's several accounts from Jesus and the apostles who stated that Adam and Eve were the first and only. So we'd have to discount them, but we need to prove that first. So before, again, we can deal with that, we got to establish the fact that every human being that has ever been born in the history of mankind had to come from two people, Adam and Eve. As a matter of fact, if we go to Genesis chapter 3, verse 20, we find Moses shows us what Eve's name literally means. That Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. The word Eve literally means mother of all living. The Hebrew word Eve, that's what it means. That's what it means.
And then you got Adam's name meaning man. So if you take, it's like, maybe it's God's providence, whatever. You take Adam and Eve, first father, first mother. His name means man. Her name means mother of all living. You take a man and a woman to create life. That's the law. That's the law of biogenesis.
Yes.
It's like, man, that God set that in motion at the beginning of time. And that's why the creation account, Matthew 19, Mark 10, Jesus was always, that's the standard, man.
Right.
That's crazy when you think about that.
Man, if I didn't know any better, I would say God was omniscient.
And omnipotent.
I agree with both of those.
And omnipresent.
And that one too.
Psalm 139.
I concur.
I concur. But Genesis 3:20, viewing audience, you want to note this passage. Eve's name literally means mother of all living. Now, when we get to Athens, Greece,
right,
when Paul has established the church at Thessalonica in 3 Sabbaths, 3 weeks, they had apostolic framework and presence and the preaching of an apostle there for 3 weeks. Then he has to leave because of the persecution of the Judaizers. They go down to Berea. And we find one of our sugar stick passages, chapter 17, verse 11. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, and that they received the word in all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily whether those things were so. Well, what do haters do? Hate has no bounds.
Haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate. And that's what they did. Those Judaizing teachers, they hated Paul and Silas and Timothy so much, they followed those jokers down to Berea. And they persecuted him there to the extent that the brethren at Berea had to give Paul a personal escort to Athens, Greece.
Absolutely.
So we're still in Acts chapter 17. Paul is in Athens, Greece. The Bible said his spirit was stirred in him. That means he was mad when he saw all of the city wholly given to idolatry. One commentator said it was a 3-1 ratio.
I think a little bit as far as specificity, it says about 10,000
Yes.
statues littered throughout Athens.
30,000.
30, yes, 30,000.
There was a 3-1 ratio. There were 30,000 little idols or emblems to every 10,000 people. So every person in Athens could have owned 3. That one commentator said that.
And this is the philosophical mecca of the then known world.
Stoics and the Epicureans are there, and they worshiped everything, and they had an altar to the unknown God in case they miss one.
Right.
Now,
that's so crazy when you think about that. Not to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
To make a God to everything you could think of, man. Can you imagine that? The God of the fork, the God of the spoon, the God of the trash can. Everything you could think of, and for them to have the knowledge that they have, they were the upper echelon of the knowledge. Of
the thinkers, and
yes, they were these people, but for some reason they missed it.
Well, which is why they wanted to hear Paul.
And sadly, times haven't changed.
You took the word right out of my mouth. I was just going to say the exact same thing,
man, and that's why they wanted to hear Paul. They call Paul a babbler,
seed picker.
Seed picker is what that word translates. And what it is we've seen birds pick seeds.
Mm-hmm.
So they say, Paul, man, this guy's traveled, and obviously he's experienced, he's traveled, and he flew over here, he picked up a little bit. He flew over here, he picked a little bit. He flew over here, picked a little bit, and he created a whole doctrine, and we'll hear it. Right. That's what I said. We'll hear it. We're interested. But that, well, of course, that's not, Paul's doctrine was one. It was a single doctrine. It was the doctrine of Christ. 2 John 9. But in Acts 17, so Paul, as he's waiting on Silas and Timothy to come to Athens, Paul has an encounter with the Stoics and the Epicureans, the philosophical minds of the time,
right,
because he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. And he says to them in verse number 26, he says that God had made of one blood all nations of men to dwell on the face of all the earth. So if we look at Genesis 3:20, Eve is the mother of all, and all means all. Eve was the mother of all living. Paul said that all living came from one blood. Then that establishes for us by inspiration the fact that God did not create other people, because then you couldn't have all nations of men coming from one blood.
No.
Eve couldn't be the mother of all living if God created other people. And we need to establish that fact.
Right.
We have to establish that before we can ever talk about Cain.
And then Paul, again, 1 Corinthians 15, 45 and 47.
Yes, sir.
He says, the first man, Adam. Like, I think I said once before, you can't get any more firster. You can't get any firster than first.
And firster than first. And I'll tell you, man, so when you think, we were talking about this off camera, because when I was thinking about replying to the viewer, and I was thinking about how would they populate the earth. And when we notice Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, man, this hit me like a ton of bricks. And God said, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. And then he gave them dominion over the fish, the sea, fowl, every beast, and my little one on a side note, she asked me, she said, why did God, she said God made a lot of like different things, but he didn't call them all like animals, like beasts. Like she picked up on that. I said, man, she picked up on the four flesh. So Paul said there's four flesh. There's man, beast, fowl, fish.
Yeah.
And she picked up on that. But we
the groups.
Yep, the four groups of flesh. Yep. It was just so interesting that she picked up on that. But we noticed Genesis 1:28, where we were talking off camera, we were like, man, they didn't have malls. They didn't have vacation. They didn't have, bills. They didn't have extracurriculars and sports. How would they see this command? That's all they had to do. They didn't have anything else that they needed to focus their time on other than procreating.
And we might add too, the word replenish in verse 28 is the same word as fill in verse 22.
Yes.
Fill the earth.
It is. Fill the earth.
Repopulate
Well, they will populate for the first time.
We repopulate, right?
Yeah,
right.
They will now. Our suffix re means again.
Again, right.
But here
It's
it
first
means
time.
just like you said, fill it.
Mm-hmm.
Fill it. Like what? How would they see this? Like what would they do? What else are they gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like, so when you think about how fast they could populate the earth, the skeptic, the atheist, there's no way two people could have created this many people. Bruh, what else were they gonna do?
And I think off camera we was talking about logical possibilities.
Right.
Yes.
Because here's a logical possibility. God created Adam and Eve fully grown.
And you know what? Most people never consider that.
Yeah.
So you just, a lot of people just read Genesis 1, Genesis 2, but when he makes Adam and Eve, they are full grown adults.
Right. That can start
right then and there.
Birthing, and they can start conceiving.
Mhm.
They can start creating children immediately.
Right.
So go ahead,
So let me
Keith.
ask you this. I'm gonna play into I'm gonna go far out there. Life in the garden. If we think about how things were created, day 1, day 2, day 3, it was instantaneously. It was everything unfolds.
Mhm.
Could it be that even childbearing was different? What if it was the same mindset with him knowing her and then accelerates? It goes
Right.
What would you like? Because in the garden, everything is different. When man sins, he gets outside the garden, and then things turn drastic for man.
Well, we were talking about this too, that before the sin, childbearing would be hard. But what about before the sin?
That's what I'm saying.
So you say, we all say before sin comes in Genesis 3, everything was different. We might also say before everything was better.
May not take 9 months.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what I'm getting. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound crazy, but that's
no. That's
no, bro. That's like, that really is something you don't think about.
Right. And so you got to think like, okay, like you said, they are created on day 6.
Yes.
Crown of God's creation. Day 6, they could have started conceiving children.
They could start.
Day 6.
They could start.
That's crazy when you think about it like that. But like I said, you read that and it's like.
But we got to go back too, Cam, just to extend, if I can extend just a little bit what you said here, I'm 100% right. But for our viewing audience, think. God stopped creating on day 7. So we know woman wasn't made after that.
Right.
We know woman had to be made on day 6.
Right.
And on the 6th day of creation, them jokers could have started
yes.
fulfilling Genesis 1:28.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. And then childbearing, would it have been how soon? And did she have to heal? Were there still the same medical? What?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's what my mind went thinking about that. Because again, we look at everything today. It takes a long time, but again, in that moment, in the beginning,
Well, man, you just made me think of something. Medically,
Mm-hmm.
what did God do when He put Adam to sleep?
Yeah, he took his rib, closed the flesh.
He closed the flesh and set it
Mhm.
up. So think about it. So when Eve is having children,
Mm-hmm.
in a similar vein, I just got to think about it from the standpoint. Whatever problems she had, God could have fixed just like He did.
Of course.
Just like He did with Adam.
Yeah.
I mean, with no problem.
Yeah.
That's crazy when you think about it, man.
I'm telling you, when we talk about all you have to do is provide a logical possibility, and it destroys any proposed contradictions. You just provide a logical explanation.
I just literally thought about that. Like,
we were talking, we were talking off camera before this, and Adam was saying, man, I never thought about like them being able to have children day 6 and whatever the time span might have been between that and the time they sinned.
Because another possibility, because even at, what is it? I don't want to have the wrong timing, but even if you went 7 months,
yeah,
a woman, I think it's 35 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the child is premature.
Yeah.
So you figure like, but once again, that's 7 months after the sin.
Right.
It could have been 6 or 7 months, before the sin, and everything was okay.
Right.
So we said even today, a woman can give birth to a healthy child after 35, 36 weeks.
Right.
But then you got direct
perfection.
Right. Totally different.
Man, listen, as we prepare for this, it was, as I was writing these notes and preparing this framework for this episode, my mind was like, man.
And to show you how perplexing this is, like you ever watch like a Bible movie that started with creation? Like you ever seen like just any Bible movie and how they try to portray what happened from creation on down throughout the ages?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they got to fast forward everything because that's how fast everything was going.
Yeah.
And they can't even capture that, even with the best cameras, man, the way God's creation was so magnificent. Like you go from the world being created and then you see Adam and Eve in the garden.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't even capture that. So.
You can't. Yeah. And so the next question, I mean, these are just great things to think about. These are great things to think about. I'll say, so as we go forward, so now we have to ask a question. All right, Adam and Eve were the first. They had to be the first and only. So how was the earth so populated? So that has to be the next question as we start to ask the question for Cain. So to understand this question is to understand that Genesis chapter 1 through chapter 11, till we get to Abraham, we're talking about 2,000 years. Like, the average Christian probably doesn't just either know that or think about that. Like, time has to be a factor.
Right.
We have to factor it into the question, who did Cain marry? If you don't factor in time, then you're going to have him. You either got to have other people made or he got to be doing something with Eve. Right. That's good. That's got to be the only two options. Either God had to create some more people, which we've shown he didn't,
right,
or you got to have Cain with Eve. Right. So, but we know that can't be the case because he's in the land of Nod. He's been cast out. He's a vagabond. People are going to want to kill him. People? What people?
Right.
How are people going to want to kill Cain? Where these people come from? Right. So either God had to create other people, which we've said that can't be the case. We've shown biblically. Or, he had to do something with Eve and you had to have Eve populate everything from Adam and Cain.
And what we have, because I think we said this on another episode too, in those 11, well, especially those 11 chapters.
I think it was episode 3. Season 3, episode 8.
That's
what it was.
In those 11 chapters, you have to, also, like you said, you have to take into consideration time, but the overlap. Because those people living 800, 900.
Right.
Methuselah was 969 years of age.
Right.
But if you just read that like, okay, Methuselah lived 969 and another generation. No, it was overlap between fathers and grandfathers, mothers and grandmothers, overlap. Man, they was meeting each other, man, and they was 300 and 400 and 500 years of age.
Years old.
Yeah.
Right. You meeting their great
absolutely
great grandkids.
Right.
We're talking about generations. And so again, to understand this question, to understand that Genesis chapter 1 through 11, before we get to Abraham, we're talking about 2,000
years.
2,000 years. I mean, I'm 45 and I feel like I've been here forever. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying 2,000 years. Yeah. Think about how old America is. America's not even 2,000 years old.
Right.
America a couple hundred years old, man. Like you're talking about 2,000 years.
Right.
So, and again, I think we dealt with this in episode 8 of season 3, but that myth theory, like you don't, like, it's not mythical. It's real scripture. It's real time that we have to deal with when we're proposing Cain and who he married. So let's go to Genesis 4. Let's go to Genesis chapter 4. We'll spend a little time here. Let's look here. Let me get this back. All right, so here we have Cain and Abel. So Genesis 4 is the information that we got to use when we regard Cain. And then we've got Genesis 5, which is the genealogy, which is interesting because if we notice the genealogy in Genesis chapter 5, we notice this is the book of the genealogy, the generations of Adam, which same word as genealogy. That God created man in the likeness of God, made he him, male and female created he them, and blessed them and called their name Adam. In the day that they were created, and Adam lived 130 years and begot a son in his own likeness, after his image, called his name Seth. We don't even have Cain and Abel in the genealogy chapter. Right? We don't even have them there.
But then that provides some bookends.
Yes.
So we know that they had to be born within that 130.
We got 130 year time span.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
You got 130 years. That's a long time.
Right.
Like, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Think about my father-in-law. My father-in-law is one of 13.
Talking about with the siblings?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, he's got 12 siblings. Like, that's not even living during the time when people live 900 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, by the time the oldest one, like by the time the youngest one was born, the oldest one had kids older than the youngest one.
Right.
This is this is my
this in your life.
This is just
right now.
Yeah, I'm married into this. Like, I got in-laws that have experienced this. Now put this on the creation scale.
And I'm just looking now. Verse 5 says, and all the days that Adam lived were 930 years. So he lived another 800 years.
We ain't even dealt with that. Like, we haven't even dealt with 800 more years. As a matter of fact, we haven't even dealt with 130
right
yet.
We got to deal with that first.
We haven't even dealt with 130. So you think about it. One commentator suggested that chapters 4 and 5 are 1,400 years.
Like, where would he get that from? How do you?
I don't know. It's approximately 1,400 years. Like, you think? Well, I guess you could do. Now, chapter 5, you could.
That's what I'm saying.
You can calculate chapter 5.
Chapter 5.
You can find some years there. But let's just assume that's 1,400. But we know chapters 1 through 11 are 2,000. So 1,400. If you're thinking, you got the 130 years from Adam, right, to Seth. But let's just say this. Let's say the implication is that Cain was the firstborn child.
Right.
I think we can just safely imply that I think the inference will bear out that Cain is the firstborn. However,
well, even Genesis 4:1.
Yes.
When Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord.
Right.
And then she again bears brother Abel.
No, of course, somebody might say, it doesn't say he was the first. I think the inference and the implication is that Cain was the first. Yeah. But can we safely say that Abel was the second? I don't know that we can just be like, and Abel was the second. It may be that Abel is named because of the conflict that's going to happen between him and his brother.
Possibility.
That's a possibility.
That is a possibility. We got 130 years we're playing with. Are we going to say in 130 years until Seth that Cain and Abel were the only two?
No.
It doesn't seem possible when we think about Genesis 1:28. When you think about the command of Genesis 1:28 and you ain't got nothing else to do but make babies, right? They didn't have contraception, they didn't have contraception. They weren't trying to keep babies from being made. They were trying to fulfill Genesis 1:28. So you can literally look at Genesis 4:1 and 2, and you don't know how much time there is between those two verses. We don't know. We got 130 years to play with. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know. There could have been some sons and daughters between Cain and Abel.
Absolutely.
Going back to the genealogy, 800 years, and he had sons and daughters. Adam lived another 800 years. He died at 930 and had sons and daughters.
Genesis 5:4.
Yes.
In the days of Adam, after he had begotten said were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. So he begat sons and daughters. So from 130, he begat more sons and daughters.
More.
But like you said, you got 130 years to play with that we know for a fact.
And in the light of Genesis 1:28, or will we say Cain and Abel were the only two? In the light of Genesis 1:28, with 130 years.
And with no other evidence to
negate it.
Right.
Man, I'm just saying. Somebody asked us who did Cain marry, right? We are just we're walking through this.
It's just don't withdraw from us and throw us away.
Listen, it'll be all right. But we don't know. Like, and she again, it didn't say that was the very next one. And it didn't say she bore him when Cain was 1 year old. Right? It just says, and again, she bore his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was, as a matter of fact, you know that there had to be some time passed. They weren't born farmers and shepherds.
No.
You know, so again, how much time passed before Cain and Abel took their professions in chapter 4? So you know some time had to pass.
Because even if you say, like, just say we use kind of 18-ish as like from childhood 18, you become a man. Right. You know, if you even if you use that metric, that's 18 years. From at least from Cain. If he's the firstborn, and I'm being general. Right. You know what I'm saying? So let's say he from 0 to 18, he became a man at 18, he started his occupation, and then same thing with Abel. That's just 18 years.
But let's say Cain and Abel were like me. They had a profession or a career before the one that became the one that they would come to be known for. Right. Like before I became an educator, I worked in finance. Right. But that's not the career that defines me. Mm-hmm. The career that defines me is the one that I actually love, the one I actually. So who's to say that just because they became 18 that they chose that I was 29. Yeah. You know, when I became an educator. So, man, I'm telling you, time is something we got to account for. And when we're talking about who did Cain marry, all of these are logical explanations about how a population existed where Cain could find a wife.
I still keep going back. I keep playing it in my head, man, about the garden. Everything in the garden was made full. Like anything that was in the garden was made full. Yeah. I just keep thinking, what is this? If this same, now I've never thought about this till we discuss this episode was going to be an episode. But that's a possibility. I'm not willing to bet the house on it. I'm not willing to say that that's what it is.
But I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's it. That just keeps playing in my head because again, what was not made grown or full in the garden?
Right. Yeah, it wasn't like Adam. It was like Adam was planting seeds.
No,
that's what
he wasn't planting seeds. No. Everything was full grown. Genesis 2:15, God tells him, God put the man into the garden to till and to cultivate the garden. But Genesis 4, though, is interesting. As you're working your way through the account with about Cain once he goes to the land of Nod. Reading that now with that lens, it was just stated. Yeah. Like whosoever find. Like
whoso. So there was people.
Yes. His wife. It just stated as is. You know, so that's very interesting the way that's put now that you understand Genesis 1:28. Right. Yeah. And so if Genesis, if we revisit this, so one of the answers could be, well, no, they couldn't have had kids in the garden. Because if Cain is the first one, it's 4. That's after they've been expelled from the garden. Mm-hmm. So if Cain is the first one, that's Genesis 4. So Cain would be the first one. So they didn't. So how long was it then? Well, there's a whole nother question. How long was it before they sinned?
and were expelled.
Yeah.
These are just good questions. Things we're just talking through because you don't, it's and again, we don't have inspiration or we don't have revelation for any of this. Like the stuff that we're just logically trying to talk our way through some possibilities. That's all we're doing. Mm-hmm. We're just talking our way through possibilities. So again, as Keith said, don't come for us. Don't withdraw for us because we said that between Cain and Abel there could have been more children because there could have been. But how they but notice verse 3. Here's a kicker for me as I was putting together this framework. And in process of time. No, do you know that in process of is one Hebrew word? The transliteration would be QETS, kets. It literally means at the end of an interval. An end of an interval. Think about this. And in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. How long was that? We might think it was the next day. But we know it can't be the next day. Here again is time. In the process of time, at the end of some time period, from the time that Cain became a keeper, a tiller of the ground, until he offered, it wasn't the next day.
Yep.
We got time that's passing. And as this time is passing from the time that Cain and Abel had taken their professions till they gave the first offering to God, what do we think Adam and Eve are doing?
Replenishing the earth.
Populating the earth. Having more children. Reproducing. Genesis 1:28. Then drop down to verse 8. Drop down to verse 8. Notice this. And Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and here we go, came to pass. And it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. So, man, if we don't account for time, we might think all this stuff is happening the same day or the next day. The phrase "in process of" is the Hebrew word ketz. It means at the end of an interval. The phrase "it came to pass" is the Hebrew word heya, and it means to be.
Like a completion.
Yeah. It came. So how much time are we talking about, y'all?
And that's the X factor.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't know how much time, but we know it's some time.
Absolutely.
We know there is some time written in here, man. How much time passed between verse 3 and verse 8 if we're simply talking about the time when Seth was born?
Yeah.
Man, you could have 100 years, man. You know what I'm saying? You could literally have 100 years. And Cain could be 100 years old.
And that's the wonderful thing about reading the creation accounts, because you're looking at genealogies. You're looking at genealogies, you're looking at records, and the thing about it is, so when we're born, we go to the hospital, you got birth certificate, birth record. They didn't have that. So basically, all we have is this is who it was.
Right.
This is when they started having children. This person was born as a result of that. They live for another 600-700 years after that. Right. And so that thing keeps going. It keeps going. It keeps going. And so, but like you said, but in the middle part, that dash.
Right.
In the dash of their lives,
a
whole lot of stuff going on, a whole lot of people being born.
Man, and somebody might say, man, this is not, this is not crucial. I think it is crucial. Now, not that we have attached concrete dates and times and proof, but what we've done is we've given, I think through us talking through this, we've come up with we are discussing some logical possibilities that can help somebody's faith when it's being attacked by the atheists and the agnostics saying this can't be true. Oh yeah, it can be.
Well, another thing you think about it from his vantage point. So a person may say, well, that's not that big of a deal, not important. It is, in the grand scheme, not only you consider Cain's wife, Seth's wife.
Yep.
Because when you get to Luke chapter 3, going back through that genealogy,
it's got to be.
Luke traces Jesus' genealogy all the way back through Seth to Adam, who's the son of God. So that's very important.
It's very important. Extremely important. I think so, man. And again, you start digging into this, and again, we have to. Obviously, we're being creative in some of our
because Genesis 5:8 says, "And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years and begat Canaan." Well, verse 7 says, "And Seth lived after he begat Enos."
Yes.
Where did Seth get this one from?
Right. He had to have a wife to begat anybody. Yeah. Now, of course, no women are named in here.
Absolutely.
Because we know that's implied.
Absolutely.
Like you got to have a woman.
Yeah.
So you're tracing the genealogy of Christ, which is why Genesis chapter 5 is so important.
Absolutely.
Like sometimes I think people think God just threw it in there. It's like it's a obituary chapter.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? God just saying somebody was born, they had some children, they died.
There's nothing in this book that's just in here by chance.
I know that's right.
All of it is in here for a reason.
Amen. You know what I say, man? God don't do anything. God don't waste one action. He don't waste one word. Man. He doesn't waste. He's not like us. God doesn't waste one. He's not arbitrary about anything. Nope. If he wrote it, you best believe he's got some purpose for something. You might not understand what the purpose is, but there is a purpose to it. God doesn't waste a word. He doesn't waste an action. Not one jot or tittle. Like he does not waste a jot or a tittle. And so when you look at, can we drop down to verse 12 through 15? Notice 4. Let's go to 4. Mm-hmm. Look at verse 12. "When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from the face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore, whosoever," just pointing back to you or what you were saying, Cam, "Therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any find him should kill him." And so verses 12 through 15 clearly depicts a populated earth. But if you don't account for time, beginning at verse number 1 through 3, if you don't account for time, you think this stuff happened yet tomorrow.
Right.
Or the next day. And so, but we got 130 years that we can potentially play with regarding just populating the earth before Seth.
And then another thing I think we said off camera, taking into consideration just things that happen in birth, giving birth to twins,
right?
Triplets, quadruplets. That happens.
We've got sets of twins throughout the Bible.
Yes.
We have sets of twins throughout the Bible. It can happen. So think about the potential math. When I was doing, I said, man, I put pen to paper. I started doing math, y'all. Like now, of course,
that's that math teaching you coming out.
Listen, I want to see it. Like so potentially, and there's a couple different flow charts you can use to calculate what the birth could have looked like. You know what I'm saying? I didn't do it with twins because there's no way I could do it, but there could be some twins scattered.
Oh yeah,
it's just a possibility.
And then it just be double.
So Adam lived for 930 years and had children. Now we would assume that based on the command to, again, populate the earth, that the population would grow exponentially. Like you'd have to assume that with Adam living 930 years.
Yes.
Okay. You'd have to assume that with them not doing anything else, like I said, they weren't going on vacations. They weren't going to soccer games. They weren't working 8 hours a day at a job. They weren't paying bills. They literally had the command to multiply, be fruitful, populate the earth. That's what you got to do. That's what they did, right? You had 930 years of this. Okay. You would imagine that the world would grow exponentially. I submit to you that there could be children between Cain and Abel.
And 930 years, that's just one generation.
Yes.
So that's Adam,
yes,
and Eve, however long Eve lived for that.
Just those two.
Right.
For 930 years.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's put that in mind. Now imagine Adam and Eve began having children immediately with Cain, starting with Cain. They start having children because we can't place a earthly age to Adam and Eve. They were born fully grown, and they could have children day one. So let's say Adam and Eve began having children immediately, and they did this for 40 years. Let's just say 40 years. They lived 900. Adam lived 930. Let's just say for 40 years they were having babies. And let's say that they had one child every 2 years. They had one child every 2 years. That would give them 20 children in 40 years, right? Mm-hmm. Again, assuming no twins. Well, if those children began having children and I'm just using a round number of 20. Let's say their children start having children at the age of 20. Then the first 11 children, their first 11 children out of 20, if they're having children by the age of 20, will start having children.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you're going to say, well, there's only 20 kids. How in the world are they going to have children? Well, obviously. Obviously, there was some incest happening. Now, we don't want to, we're not scientists, right? We're not biologists. Right. We're not going to dive into the reasons why incest at that time would have been okay from a genome perspective, right? Where we get our chromosomes and stuff like that, and the deficiencies that you would experience today if you crossbred in incest. And
let's make it abundantly clear. We're not preaching incest.
Oh, of course not. No. Listen, Leviticus 18.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Leviticus 20.
We
just can't be too careful.
Yeah, listen, no. But if you did that, you would have Adam and Eve, first generation. You would have their 20, second generation. You would have the 20, the 11 that could start having kids, third generation. In 40 years, you have 3 levels of people.
Yeah.
Just 40 years.
And so that's you gave Adam and Eve 20 years, right?
I just gave him 40. I gave him 40 years with 20 kids. So look, 2 years time span between kids.
Yeah, just to show you how multiplied it is. So that's Adam and Eve in 40 years.
Right.
That is a third of the time frame that we have. 130 years.
I know.
Only a third.
Yes.
And we're not even talking about the other 800 years. We just talk about the 130 years that we know for.
Before we get to Seth.
Yes. Just a third. That's just a third, man.
So if they had one kid, so you would have Adam and Eve, that'd be 2. You'd have their 20 children. That would be 22 people. And then you'd have their 11 kids.
33.
We'll have 11. Yeah. Just that quick. Like you would be able to, and again, that's assuming no
twins or triplets.
No twins
and anything like that.
No anything like that.
Man, it's definitely something to think about. I wouldn't, I'm very intrigued by this, and I hope other people are as well, just to entertain the thought.
Right.
But there's nothing. Sadly, we won't know until we make it to heaven.
Well, that's true. But as I think about going back, you think about Cain coming in chapter 4. So it would have been interesting to know what childbirth would have been like pre-sin, pre-curse. So they wouldn't have had any children in the garden. If Cain is the first one, they had been expelled by then.
Right.
And they had sinned by then. So
yeah, I think we were just saying earlier that
we're just saying
they could have started day one.
They could have started.
Right.
They could have started. That would have been interesting to know what that childbirth would have been like pre-sin. You know what I'm saying? They could have started, but we know Cain was first. So without doubt, the children of Adam and Eve had to commit incest.
Yeah.
Like we know that to be the case. From Adam to Abraham was 2,000 years. And according to Galatians 3:17, Adam was given, not Adam, but Abraham was given the promise of the seed.
Mhm.
And from Abraham to the seed, which is Christ, not the seeds, is what Paul said, not the seeds, the seed. So from Abraham to the seed, God added, Paul said, the law was added because of transgression, not to nullify the promise. The promise is superior to the law, according to the book of Galatians. But in that time period, from Adam to the giving of the law, when it was added, you got another 430 years. So when the law was added, that's when incest became illegal. Incest became illegal when the law was added. So you got, I think, what was it, 2,500 years
and then
where incest was legal.
And then it was, for lack of a better term, permissible because there was no law. To the point you're saying, Romans 4:15.
Right.
Where there's no law, there's no transgression.
Right.
So like you said, not getting into all of the technical aspects of
and the scientific
DNA and all that kind of stuff like that. But if God is telling them to, be fruitful and multiply, obviously that's the logical conclusion.
And they're the only two people.
Right.
Well, then it has to happen. So and so when you think about as we consider the 2,500 years from Abraham to the law, well, who was Abraham's wife? His half sister.
Half sister, right?
His half sister. So and Abraham was kind of righteous.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until Leviticus that, and you would think, you would think the degenerations of what the flood did, and this the sinfulness of people, and just the process of time, you would think the genome would degenerate, and so God knows, and so he gave the the injunction that you're not to have close relatives as a mating partner. And so God knew what he was doing. And so it's interesting, when you ask who did Cain marry, obviously it had to be a relative. We don't know exactly how long it took to populate Nod. We don't know how many people were there, but it's conceivable, right? We can clearly see that the population growth from Adam and Eve could have been exponential. Like I think we've just proved that. Yeah. Now what that looked like, we just talked our way through it just to provide some logical explanation. But we, like you said, Key, we don't have revelation for it, and we're not preaching this and teaching it as if it's verifiable fact that we can prove. But you can clearly see that you have to know, number one, Adam and Eve were the first and only. And then number two, you got to account for time.
And then at the end of the day, it's just what we've said to try to sum up everything is try to give you something to think about as you're reading through it without feeling like, hey, it's something that can't be answered. And
that's how most people feel. Because if you're at most people who ask that question, they like, I don't know. I know.
Well, listen. We appreciate you guys. Make it plain, hab22@gmail.com. This was a good study, guys. We appreciate it. If you'd like to reach out to us, please email us. We love to hear from you. May God bless you and keep you as you seek to conform your will to his.